Welcome to Integrated Math 3. On this episode, Stevenson will demonstrate Let's look at normal distributions a little bit more. Now, if we take a normal distribution and we let the mean represent 0 as its center, then essentially what can happen now is each of the standard deviations can be considered plus or minus from your mean. So, for example, here's a normal curve. So if I let my x bar be 0, then one standard deviation greater than the mean is just 1s. One standard deviation less than the mean is negative 1s. So a positive s value means a positive standard deviation. That means you're going to the right or greater than or above the mean. And if it's a negative value, then you're going less than the mean. Or on our graph, we can see it would just be to the left. So whether you're positive or negative does matter because it tells you your position with respect to the mean. Now, let's look at something that can happen. If you do this normal distribution and you standardize it, then you can use those pluses and minuses on the standard deviation to help you understand your data a little bit better, or at least in a different way. Well, there's something called the empirical rule, and it applies mostly accurate to population data rather than sample data. However, it can often be applied in large samples. And what's really neat is it basically summarizes the percentage of the data within so many standard deviations of your mean. Let me show you. Look at the first one here. So this is some normal curve. Now here's what's really cool. If you look at all the data within one standard deviation of the mean, so that means one standard deviation above and one standard deviation below. So if you look at all that data will account for 68% of the data as a whole. So what this means is that 68% of the data you've collected will be within one standard deviation of your mean. Now, 68% seems pretty good. Well, what happens if you go within 2 standard deviations of your mean? Well, how much is that going to cover? Well, according to the empirical rule, if you are within 2 standard deviations of the mean, you're going to represent 95% of the data. What if you go within 3 standard deviations of your mean? If you're within 3 standard deviations of your mean, then you are representing 99.7% of the data you've collected. Notice it's not 100%, but it is very, very close. So let's summarize the empirical rule. If you're within 1 standard deviation of the mean, then you have 68%. If you are within 2 standard deviations of the mean, you have 95%. And if you are within 3 standard deviations of the mean, you have 99.7% of your data. So this is what the empirical rule tells you. And this happens when you have standardized your normal distribution curve.